Hello my loves, I am back to tell you some spooky stories that I have found on subreddit r/paranormal. I also have my own subreddit r/spooksubmissions that anyone can post in to have their stories read here. Let's get into the stories. These stories are titled, First Post Quite Long, me and others have experienced things we can't explain. Posting this on this thread to see if anyone has had any similar experiences, or if anyone can provide an explanation to just what has been going on. I'll try to keep this part concise. I'm just providing some context for the post. Me and my girlfriend, both 18, have known each other for essentially our entire lives. We went to the same primary school and secondary school in the UK, and we have also been part of the same friend group after school and through college. We live 5 minutes away from each other and grew up in the same area. Tonight, we are reminiscing about our time in primary school, and after a while the conversation swayed into scary things that have happened during our time there. We experienced a few lockdowns back then, and we also experienced the whole clown epidemic of 2016 whilst at school. There was a mental hospital not far from where we were living, 5 to 10 minutes walking. There have been a few incidences of patients getting out in the past. One caused our primary school to lock down, and another personal experience was a knock on the door at about 10 p.m. a few years ago from a worker at the hospital looking for a patient. We isolate the incidents involving the hospital as they have explanations behind them, and those are the only two that I have personally experienced. The rest of what I'm about to share, I genuinely can't explain. I'll try my best to do this in chronological order, but to be honest, none of it makes any sense to me, or the other people who have witnessed these events. The first happened about 1.5 to 2 years ago. I would have been around 16 or 17. It was a random Monday late in winter, early spring. It was 1:30 in the morning. I was asleep, as well as everyone else in my house, until my bedroom door opens. My mom basically tiptoes into my room and heads straight for my window. I'm confused and a bit nervous, so I ask her what she's doing. I have folding blinds, and I never, ever leave them open while I'm sleeping. My mom begins to subtly peek through the blinds, and all she does is tell me to be quiet. Even though I wanted to ask more questions, I didn't hesitate in listening to her. Despite being half asleep, I quickly got the impression that she wasn't messing with me. It goes quiet for a few seconds, and then we both hear it. Bangs at the front door, followed by the most disturbing thing I've ever heard. The noise genuinely sounds like demented groaning. I was absolutely terrified. I can't stay quiet any longer, and I whisper to my mom, asking if she heard the groans. She quickly tells me no, and just leaves my room. Then I hear my dad walking around the house and quickly make his way downstairs. I can't remember if he opened the front door or not, so because of that, I'm going to say that he didn't. I didn't really sleep much for the rest of the night. I later found out no one else did either. The only thing on my mind was those groans, and how my mom didn't hear them. I felt like I was going crazy. I got my answer the next day though. When I got home from college, my mom heard everything I heard. In her words, she didn't want to scare me. Trust me, I was already scared enough. And hearing that made my blood run cold. We all have theories about who or what it was at the front door that night. Maybe it was a hospital patient again. Maybe it was a drunk person. Maybe someone on drugs. Or maybe someone looking to cause us harm. Each theory has its faults though. If it was the hospital, we would have found out, as I have a coworker who works the night shifts there, as well as her day job. She ensures we know every last detail of everything that happens. A drunk person or a person on drugs makes no sense either. Putting it into context, we live on a main road, and our house is kind of in the middle. Out of all the houses, it had to be ours? What's a drunk person doing at 2 a.m. on Monday when 1, it's Monday, 2, all the pubs close at 10 to 11 p.m., 3, the streets around here are dead after rush hour. It doesn't make enough sense to me to confidently conclude that's what the cause was. Someone on drugs? maybe, but still a random house on a random street on a random Monday? My house is quite distinct. It's a different color from the rest on our street, and in addition, our front door is located on the side of the house. Even delivery drivers have trouble finding the front door, so how did an intoxicated person who may have the wrong house manage to find it? Our families have a history that I won't get into here, and I don't know if it's just my teenage brain, but I believe there's a possibility that it was done on purpose. If not, then I really can't find any other somewhat rational explanation. Oh my goodness, that is so scary. Thank you to your mom for gaslighting you though. That sure did help and probably didn't make you feel even more crazy about the groans. This next story is from the same person as the last one. The second incident comes quite a bit later, over the summer of 2024. After this weird stuff started happening very frequently, my girlfriend has been present for all of these experiences, which sends our heads around the bend just that extra bit further because we can't come to any rational conclusions even when we speak of the events in depth. Us, after another friend had gone for a walk, and at the time we smoked, so we thought it was a great opportunity to go to the park and enjoy having a smoke in the nice weather. We brought a speaker, snacks, and a blanket and thought we were in for a nice time. We chilled for a while and then started getting restless legs. So we go into a more forest area of the park and look to set ourselves up there for a short while. This park is big and it leads into a canal which we could then follow back to where we live. This part of the park isn't too popular with people as it's kind of off the beaten path, which is why we thought it'd be a good spot for us to smoke as we wouldn't be a disturbance. We found trees that clearly had branches pulled down so people could sit, and we were setting ourselves down when I look up and I saw what I can only describe as a woman in Victorian style attire further into the bushes. She was moving erratically and doing these strange motions with her hands. I froze in fear and the color drained from my face. My girlfriend and our friend began to laugh at me and calling me stupid for hitting a whitey because they thought that I'd smoked too much, until they both turned and looked at what I was staring at, almost like we were in a horror movie. The woman makes eye contact and begins moving slowly towards us. We had enough time to pick up our things and get out of there, but the panic was real. We were all completely shaken, but we thought it was over. Of course it wasn't. We began making our way to the canal when from the bushes, the howling and crying of dogs completely drowned out any conversation we were trying to make. I've never heard dogs yap and cry before. I've heard dogs yap and cry before, but never anything like this. It sounded desperate, like they were in pain. Coincidence, maybe? But that's where we drew the line and bolted from that place. We're 3 teenage girls, but we're streetwise, and not much really scares us. We've been there hanging around the streets for years. We'd seen our fair share of stuff, so witnessing those two especially display that level of fear validated what I saw, probably made me more frightened. I have no idea what someone in a Victorian dress could be doing in those woods. That's so weird. And then looking at you and coming after you? I probably would have just dropped dead. This next story is still from the same person as the last 2 stories. The last 2 I'm about to share are, in my opinion, the scariest things that have ever happened to me due to the fact that I still can't make sense of any of it. It's early October 2024, and it's a Friday night. My girlfriend and I were sitting downstairs in my house, listening to music and talking crud. It's a bit of a ritual of ours, if we don't have any plans for the weekend night. We are messing around with my dog and taking videos of her. My parents were out for the night, and my brother was at a friend's house. As we're taking one of those videos, the dog starts to go nuts. She alerts us if people are at the door, or if she hears someone on the property. But besides that, she's a quiet dog. It's about 11 p.m., so visitors weren't expected, and my mom and dad weren't due to be back until either later that night or the next morning. I get up and follow the dog to the back door, which sends chills down my spine. But since there's no one else home, it's up to me to look after the house. My girlfriend is shaken and tells me to arm myself just in case. She tries to look through the blinds, but she can't really see anything because the patio light was off. The dog by this point seemed more calm, so we paused and set the knife down. We began discussing why the dog may have done that when we hear noises coming from outside. They weren't loud noises, but loud enough we both looked up and then at each other. The noises aren't easy to describe, but we remember light taps and then a faint human-esque noise, almost like someone clearing their throat. I don't know where I found the courage, but I pulled back the blinds and swung open the back door. I stepped out, checked left, checked right, and checked in front of me. There's nothing there. I tell my girlfriend it's clear, and we use that as an excuse to call it a night and go to bed. Everything is calm. We both go to sleep with no trouble, and the dog seems to be settled. Fast forward to something past 3 in the morning. I feel my girlfriend get up to go to the toilet. Knowing what she's doing, I don't pay any attention. About 2 minutes later, she comes back into the room and goes to sleep. The next morning comes, and we pretty much had forgotten about what happened. It was only when my girlfriend asked to speak to me about something that made my blood run cold again. She'd only been coming over to the house for about 2 months, and as the winter months were drawing in, we didn't have our windows open very often. That night, the bathroom window had been open, and it was open when she went to the toilet. She wasn't aware that the windows even opened, as it looks more like a decorative window than one that actually gets used. It has a floral pattern and is about 5 feet above the floor. It'd be easier to explain with a picture, but I don't have one at the moment. She told me that night when she went to the bathroom that she looked out of the window and saw into the garden. You can only see the garden if that window is wide open, as the frame obstructs the view. Over the far side of the garden, she told me she saw what looked to be a shadowy figure in all black. I was hesitant to believe her, but at the same time, the desperation in her voice told me she wasn't messing. I asked her if she could make out any features, which is when she mentioned that it looked like the figure had a cloak. She couldn't specify the height, but she said it didn't look abnormally large or abnormally small, just a tall, cloaked figure, and it was looking directly at her. She goes to the toilet in the dark, as to not disturb anyone, which made this more eerie, but I still couldn't hold back from joking and asking if she saw the Grim Reaper. That probably wasn't my smartest move, because I then freaked myself out even more. She told me there was no scythe, just a figure she couldn't distinguish if it actually had reddish colored eyes, or if that was just her brain trying to dramatize it. Now this may sound stupid of us, but it only clicked for us today that those two events occurred on the same night, October 4th, 2024. Just today, I had to demonstrate how the bathroom window opened to her because she genuinely wasn't aware that it did. It left us questioning why she looked out of the window, if at the time she didn't know that it opened. She described where she saw the figure in the garden. I was skeptical because I wasn't sure if that part of the garden would be visible when the window was open, but sure enough, we tried, and it was. The fact that the lights were off, but this figure was staring at her. The fact that the dog went nuts. The fact we heard things. I went outside and checked. It's all crazy to us. It was suggested that maybe I missed it, but how would I miss something like that? If it was human, why would it just lurk? And how would they have known to look up at the bathroom window as soon as my girlfriend was there? Everything about that night and situation makes us feel a bit ill, because who or what? Typing it out doesn't really capture the feeling that we had at that moment, but it felt like my stomach sank into the floor. It seriously shook me up. That is so weird. To be lurking and knowing right when your girlfriend would be going to the bathroom, and then to be watching is so eerie. I can't even imagine being so freaked out that you felt safer going to the bathroom in the dark. I'd honestly just beat myself. Okay, this is the last story from this person. The final experience came less than a month later, a few days after Halloween. We were both out with another mutual friend, and we were walking home at about midnight. It was just me and my girlfriend walking, and we hadn't long left our friend. We may have been about 50 yards away from him at this point. The place we were walking is another local park with a foresty area. When you walk from the kids' park in the direction we were heading, there's just one straight path. that either leads to the gate into the local estate or down into the forest. We were walking in the direction of the gate when we heard a completely unexplainable noise come from the bushes to our left, the forest. It honestly sounded like something being killed. This is urban England, and we didn't get many animals, especially around our area, despite having a forest. Even so, it didn't sound like any animal I've ever heard. It sounded like a fox, a rabbit, a bird, or anything like that. It almost sounded human, except for the fact it was quite high-pitched. Whatever it was very clearly in distress and pain. We both felt the feeling of needing to get the heck out of there, but we didn't feel safe carrying on. We had two options: either run to the gate and hope we didn't draw attention, or go back to our friend because he's a big dude and safety in numbers. We chose the second option and begged him to let us wait with him and walk home with him. We had been walking through that park at all hours nearly every single day since all of us started high school. Despite it being classed as a dodgy area, we had never seen or heard anything until that night. After everything that had already been happening to us, we are even more shaken because it is just a coincidence at this point. After everything that had already been happening to us, we are even more shaken because is it just a coincidence at this point? It's hard to put into words how scary things are and scary things feel, but we've been trying to rationalize and conclude what has been happening for months, and we just can't. Tonight my brother told us he thinks weird things are happening in the house, and it's driving us all a bit mad. TLDR, weird things keep happening to me and the people around me, but mainly to me and my girlfriend, and we can't explain any of it. That is so scary. What could that be? What do you mean it sounded like something dying? Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to this person who let me read their stories here. Remember to like the video, comment, and follow me if you want to see more. Please tell me what the spookiest thing that has happened to you is. If you would like me to read your story in my next video, please post it on my subreddit r/spooksubmissions. I try to post stories every Saturday at 12, and I go live on Twitch on Friday and Monday from 6 to 8 p.m. I play creepy and cozy games there. I also post my streams here if you want to watch it that way. I will see you in my next video. Good night, pumpkin.